I'm reminded of the words of a very honest man, Terry Bollea, when he said, would do it for us. Would take them out one at a time. Welcome back to Motorsport 101.
That doesn't work for me, brother. Welcome to episode 577 of Motorsport 101. I'm your friendly neighborhood host, Trey Harrison. Glad you could join us again for another episode. And we're talking some IndyCar for a bit on this episode because it's one of the bigger weekends in US motorsport this weekend. It's the Long Beach weekend. And, it's a doubleheader as well because we had IndyCar and IMSA have their Grand Prix of Long Beach this past weekend. And I let these two, as a treat, talk about IMSA on the first intro of this show.
Yep.
Talk about the riveting classic, gentlemen, because first of all, we got RJ O'Connell here. Hello, RJ. Sorry you couldn't be down there, brother.
Yeah. I just hope there will be a good opportunity to be back next year. But yeah, we figure we move this up, one, because Cameron Buckley has a important family engagement and will be written out of this episode comedically later on. But I figure we want his input on something, but I got to jump the lead. This was a race that advanced the plot. Not a lot happened in terms of on-track overtaking. The move of the race was done in the pits where nobody changed tires, and the difference was a slower driver change for BMW that allowed Porsche to finish 1-2. Sorry to gut the gun there. But the big story of the weekend is Robert Wickens being back in a top-tier racing series. We have covered a lot of Robert Wickens' career, from the 3/4 of his IndyCar Rookie of the Year season, the many near miss Seattle along the way, the life-changing crash at Pocono that he had in 2018, the realization that he was physically never going to be the same he was before, but Wickens also saying, yeah, but that shouldn't stop me from getting back in a racing car. And he does. He comes back to Michelin Pilot Challenge in 22. He's a champion and a race winner in 2023. And now this year, a part-time IMSA WeatherTech Sprint Cup program with DXDT Racing, the team that gave the new Corvette GT3 car its very first competitive win. And this time at Long Beach, joined by Corvette Racing Factory driver Tommy Milner, who was basically there with Wickens, making sure that this specially built car, with its hand-controlled throttle and brake and steering, was fully integrated in the new Corvette. It was a tough weekend. They finished 15th in a 16-car class. A late collision and a meatball flag for Tommy Milner during the end of his stint pretty much ruined their weekend.
Man, RJ, if I had a nickel for every time Tommy Milner and a BMW had beef, I'd be rich.
This one was a pure accident, man. But there was a lot of hardships during Wickens' first weekend in a GTD car. He caused a red flag in the second free practice session, which meant he would lose his fastest lap in qualifying. His qualifying potential was then limited by a collision with one of the Ferraris during said qualifying session. But there were a lot of positives to take away from it. In that same practice session, he was the fastest driver out of 32. And they have really good drivers in some of those GTD cars, including Mr. Milner, including Lawrence Vantor in the AO Racing Rexy car, which was making a one-off cameo appearance. He was the fastest of them all, and he was having fun. And I can tell you that he is very, very motivated to get the results that his work and effort shows. Now, they're not going to have Milner for the rest of the season because, he's got the factory team job to do. But I feel confident that DXDT Racing is going to pick a successor that is just as good and just as capable of helping Wickens get those results. I mean, the bottom line is he never lost the talent.
He never did.
He had that in spades when we saw him for his brief stint in IndyCar. And from what we've seen of him in the other IMSA series, he has been very, very fast.
Yeah.
He's been an inspiration to us all on this show, and we've cheered very loudly for him for years since then, and it's wonderful to see him back in a racing car. And not only that, be brilliant, genuinely outstanding, genuinely like he belongs. He's not here as an also-ran. He is genuinely as fast as anyone out there in these cars, and that is awe-inspiring. Like I said, the talent never went away. The opportunity just did for a little while. But I'm delighted. It's a wonderful story for motorsport, and I'm delighted to see him back. Keep your eyes peeled on the internet. There is a special docuseries that my friends at the Motorsport Studios were able to produce featuring Robert Wickens. It's got a lot of the insight behind that crash, extended interviews with him, Lee Diffie, James Hinchcliffe, Tommy Miller is mentioned as well. They're all featured out there. It's produced by Bosch and us in the Motorsport Studios. It's called The Next Lap. Do look out for it. I've seen some footage of it. It's beautifully done. The team behind it's got over 50 years of editing experience. So you will very much enjoy it. Keep an eye out for it. I believe there's a teaser going out this weekend. So do keep your eyes peeled on socials and on the internet. I promise you it will be well worth your time.
And also, it's just been announced that he's going to try again at the Nürburgring 24 Hours. He had some trouble getting his license because of a crash during an NLS event last year. This time, he's determined to make that happen. Cam, obviously, talked about it at the top. Porsche, Felipe Nasr, Nick Tandy, and Lawrence Vanthoor are still undefeated on the season, despite the potential curse of the 47th president photo op. Porsche Penske Motorsport finished 1-2. Felipe Nasr and Nick Tandy won again ahead of Jaminet and Campbell, the Mats and the Sitz car. Johnny Edgar and Lawrence Vanthoor turning up for a one-race cameo with AO Racing to win GTD.
Everything went red for 59.4 seconds. Came out in the lead. Oh, man, I did it again.
Yeah.
And Andre Harrison has left the building. Oh, no, he's just turning on a light. Personally, this pleases me greatly.
I can imagine. I mean, this is not unprecedented dominance in the IMSA top class. Like, I can remember off the top of my head, the Wayne Taylor Racing Cadillac won 5 straight races, and they had to literally drop planets and take gears out of that car to try and stop them. Well, it ultimately was too late. I'm expecting a very reactionary kind of thing for Laguna Seca or even Detroit at this stage, but like it's just kind of like neat to see. Like, yes,
what is there left to do? Because like it's 19 kilos heavier than the BMW.
Yeah,
the BMW has 19. Yes, it has 19 kilowatts less power than the BMW. The BMW keeps qualifying on pole, and then Porsche just keeps killing them in the races, killing them in the pits.
Yeah.
And that is like, the 963 has flipped around from being the car defined by not being able to manage rear tires worth a damn to the car with such good tire wear that it can't be BOP'd. At least stuff.
And the way that they've been executing on strategy in the pits, that's something that that's balance
5 seconds faster than the
balance
BMW.
Balance of performance cannot patch that out. Now, I'm wondering where that Penske perfect pit work and strategy has gone in other facets of Team Penske's racing endeavors, but that is a discussion for a few minutes' time.
And the Joseph Newgarden fan just bursts out of RJ screaming to be killed.
Oh yeah, like
I'm already resigned that this is not going to be a championship season.
You can't see it, but RJ's slowly transforming into the Ghost Rider as we speak. While his head slowly starts catching fire, I'll tell you where you can find us.
Along with all of our Scott McLaughlin championship picks.
Who did that? Anyway, who did that anyway? Anyway, youtube.com/motorsport101, facebook.com/motorsport101. I love the rest after the chat just went oof. Yeah, you're not wrong there, buddy.
I'm feeling real good about my life right now.
Shut your fucking mouth. Anyway, we're on Twitter at motorsport_101. We're on Blue Sky at Dre Harrison, RJ O'Connell, and Cam can go fuck himself. You can back us financially at patreon.com.
No rings.
/motorsport101. And all of our details are on our website at motorsport101.com. Cam has got me corpsing, so I'm going to send for the man, play some music, and then after that, we'll talk about IndyCar's version of its Grand Prix at Long Beach.
Stop the presses, gentlemen. Alex Palou didn't win an IndyCar race. I know, you're shocked. Kyle Kirkwood took pole position on Saturday at Long Beach with a stunner of a lap, and then led all the cars on the Alpha strategy from start to finish, which largely meant keeping Alex Palou behind him. It was Kirkwood's final out lap after his last pit stop. I'm going to get a superb exit out of the final lap, hairpin to keep Palou behind. That won him his second race at Long Beach, and with it, Kirkwood, Kyle the Kirkwood, reduced Palou's championship lead to 34 points. That's still a lot, but it's closer than it was before. Christian Lundgaard of McLaren scored his second straight podium finish in third. I mean, Dre, the thing is with Kirkwood 2 years ago, he was all ceiling, no floor. Last year, he was all floor, no ceiling. How was that from Kirkwood?
This year, he might have both, and that could be a problem for everybody involved. Hey, look, my McLaughlin picks have not gone well this year. I openly admit this. However, did I not also say in the Haters Guide for the IndyCar Series that my dark horse shout was Kyle Kirkwood this year? Second place after 3 rounds. You know, he's having a fantastic season. This is not a fluke anymore. He's been hovering around the top 5 pretty much all season long this year. He dropped off a little bit in the Thermal Club race, but he's been in the mix and has been arguably more impressive for Andretti than Colton Herta has been so far this season.
Let's strike the arguably from that statement. He has been fantastic so far this season.
Look, we were watching qualifying together as a family in our Discord server, and we were stunned when Kirkwood hit that pole lap. We thought Palou had done it, and then all of a sudden Kirkwood just stole that man's lunch money. And how often do we say that about Alex Palou in this series? Period.
It ain't often, man. And I'll tell you, Andretti Global, they've had some ups and downs over the years, but it feels like on street circuits, and especially at Long Beach, they all seem to produce their best stuff. I mean, Marcus Ericsson was very unlucky not to finish in the top 10. He had a quick car all weekend. Same with Colton Herta. He was quick, but he just wasn't Kirkwood quick all weekend long. This form really shouldn't be a surprise, because Kyle Kirkwood is the only IndyCar prospect that we've ever had a show about specifically to appeal as to why he didn't have a seat sooner than he did.
So much so that Ryan Eric King put an entire PowerPoint presentation together to justify it. And he was right in doing so, because everything he said about Kirkwood in that presentation has turned out to be true. Like, this boy is him. He is getting better and better year on year. The floor is getting higher. Kirkwood himself talked about the frustration of not being able to convert it into better and bigger results last year, because that was his biggest problem. Like, the only person that had as many top 10 finishes in IndyCar last year was Alex Palou. Kirkwood had 13 top 10s last year. He was phenomenal in that regard. Just couldn't have the real big, meaty results to start thinking about title contention. Not this year. This year he's been excellent.
That is an emphatic start. And he goes to Barber Motorsports Park next, where he has a top 10 finish last year. I'm really interested to see how things get along. But yeah, we need to see more of this, because with top prospect pedigree comes the expectation that you are going to be a contender for years to come and win one of these championships. I know that Kyle Kirkwood would like to finish the whole set, because he's won it every step of the ladder, the road to Indy that existed at the time he was running there. Now all there's left is one more piece.
Yeah, this is the last piece of the jigsaw for Kyle, really, and there's no reason why he can't do it. We've seen what this man can do. And I was going to say, RJ alluded to it. Not only is it Long Beach, but Andretti and Kirkwood are just great round street tracks in general. Like, Kirkwood won at the old Nashville Street Circuit as well before he beat Scott McLaughlin in a one-on-one dogfight to win that race, and that's no easy task either. He's now got 2 Long Beach wins to his name as well. Was second in Toronto behind his teammate Colton Herta last year as well. That was his best result in the series that season. Kirkwood's always been capable, and the oval game is starting to get stronger for Kirkwood as well, where it's now he can get in the top 10 on ovals consistently as well. He's starting to piece together the makings of being an elite driver in this series now. There's no doubt about it, and if he can keep this up, he's going to be in that circle of 6 or 7 dudes that can win anything in this series on paper. Might be swapping out a couple of members, like maybe a Scott Dixon in the next year or so, depending on how form plays out. But no, this was a phenomenal performance from Kirkwood. And I mentioned it when I wrote about my race notes. That final pit stop where Palou is breathing down his neck and emptying his entire push-to-pass tank to try and get past him. Because at the end of the day, push-to-pass doesn't really matter at Long Beach. If you can defend with it and defend enough, as long as you have track position, you're golden at Long Beach. And
very difficult to pass, but very critical to use it during the pit stop, overcut, and undercut periods.
Yeah, Palou was breathing down his neck on Palou's outlap when Kirkwood came out of the pits. Kirkwood absolutely nailed his exit on the hairpin, and that, in my opinion, won him the race. Because as soon as he got the 2 extra car lengths on Palou coming out of the hairpin, when Palou was right on him through that hairpin, that won him the race because Palou just didn't have an answer for him after that. That was it. That was the race win right there and then. And like I said, with the form Palou is in right now, that's no easy task.
I think he'll take a second place out of that.
Somehow.
He'll take it. He'll absolutely take that.
It's the end of the world. I've finished second.
Oh no, he only has to go to the site of his first career win and the Indianapolis road course where he's been excellent. Oh no, and the 500 straight after that where he's been one of the quickest drivers consistently every year he's been with Chip.
Please, for the love of God, Chip, bring some decent cars to the 500 this year. It's been a couple years.
Please, Roger Penske, please bring a functioning safety belt.
How many times is this in the last 6 months?
This is the second time in the last 4 championship races because, yes, the Thermal Club counts for points now. We saw it with Will Power in the title decider at Nashville, and we saw it with Joseph Newgarden at Long Beach, which is the reason why he has a 27th and last place finish at Long Beach on a day where he had a top 10 car. And through 3 races this season, they have a combined 0 podiums, and every driver is either retired or finished last.
Well, if you're going to sacrifice the rest of the year, you better be damn good at the Indy 500.
I was going to say, they better finish 1, 2, 3 if they keep this up.
They better pull a 1994 at the Indy 500 if this keeps up, because
You better pull the Triple Crown off this year.
They have been stink.
What the hell has been going on with this team? Penske were excellent last year. Last year was like the Penske of old. Just suffocatingly fast. Yeah. The biggest hurdle they arguably had last year was their drivers making mistakes in critical moments.
It was infighting.
It was infighting in the cheating scandal.
Their 3 drivers all racked up great races on their own. The problem is that they kept taking points off of one another or alternately crashing into one another.
Yeah, it was damn silly.
This time it's this year.
Yeah, this time it's the opposite problem. Now the team organizationally is just looked poor. Like, McLaughlin's been the least egregious, and to be fair, McLaughlin was just wiped out at the Thermal Club anyway, and then his hybrid unit started failing because, well, they had the blinkers on their engine, and that's what caused their hybrid to act all funky. But even then, Power, his qualifying pace, normally his staple, is not there.
Will Power has not made the round of 12 in 3 races so far.
How?
This is Will Power.
That is inconceivable.
That is the most successful qualifier in the history of North American major open wheel racing across all eras. He has not made the round of 12. Joseph Newgarden has made the round of 12 exactly once. If it wasn't for Scott McLaughlin, things would be a lot more dire at the moment.
McLaughlin has been the best of the three, in my opinion, comfortably, and he's 8th in the standings and 73 points behind Palou already.
Is Alex Palou going to drop 73 points for the remainder of this year?
On those dudes? Probably not.
They'll drop those points straight on their heads.
Because right now, McLaughlin is 8th and 73 points back. Power is 9th and 79 points back. And Newgarden is 10th, 84 points back. Now, again, as mentioned, not all of this is on the drivers. Quite the opposite in McLaughlin and Newgarden's case, obviously. But regular season-wise, that might already be a write-off. And we're only 3 rounds in. That's a heavy deficit. We all know that here to beat Alex Palou. We all know that he is the threat. And he's been the nemesis of Penske for the last half-decade. Like, you can't afford to give that man that kind of head start.
I also offer a little bit of outside context. How many wins does Team Penske have in the NASCAR Cup Series? Their other bread and butter. I'm not counting Josh Berry. That is prepared by a different team.
Their equipment has one. Their team has none.
I was going to say, like, is it 0, isn't it?
Yes. For Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, and Austin Cindric, they have a combined 0 wins in 9 races in the Cup Series.
They have funneled all of the engineering brain power into the IMSA Porsche program. All other programs are secondary. Because even the opening round in WEC didn't go all that well either.
I don't think Raptor in our chat says Blaney's been so close.
No, Blaney's Pistons have been so close to scuffing and then have been scuffing and blowing his fucking engine.
And then
he's had 2 like classic Gen 4 era engine explosions this year.
They were more like a V10 era Formula 1 explosion. They were spectacular. It was
for all the wrong reasons.
It was the Jeremy Clarkson, my big end ended up in a bucket moment. It just not ideal. And yeah, Penske look like a mess right now.
Yeah, dog.
Is this what happens the first year after Cindric steps down? Is that it?
Well, Cindric,
he was on the pit box. He was on the pit box for the IMSA race.
Cindric still leads the IndyCar program, but that's all he leads. He used to be the president of all the operations. Now it is more deputized. They better hope they steer out of it soon, because this ain't Penske perfect.
The problem is, and I think they will solve this shit. And look, because Penske are too good not to. And second of all, the 500's become their hunting ground again in recent years. Yeah. We all know that very quietly, the damper change rule all of a sudden made Penske busted again at the 500. We saw it last year when McLaughlin had the first 234-mile-an-hour qualifying run in the history of this speedway. They were crackers last year at the 500. Like, Newgarden is favourite to three-peat, which is unprecedented.
They led every timed session for the entire month of May.
Yeah, it was brutal. So, look, I don't want to read too much into this just yet. It might just be the mother of all coincidences that they've had 3 bad rounds in a row. It's just something we've just not come to expect from Team Penske. Like, Newgarden still should have been on the podium in St. Pete. Like, I don't think this is a complete disaster by any stretch. I think the numbers are worse than what they actually are.
Right. He was on the podium at St. Pete. My apologies. I was reading this results table wrong. They have 1 podium.
Because they were third. It should have been second because Newgarden ran out of fuel on the final lap. Like, it should have been second.
That's another operational error. But I mean, if you evaluate Penske in the context of major championships, the guy to beat is Alex Palou. They are summarily failing to do that so far this year.
Now,
with any of their 3 boys.
Now, speaking of teams that have operational errors but are also favored to do well at the 500, but we're not at the 500 yet, we got to talk about Christian Lundgaard's great start to the season. He's had back-to-back podiums. He is 3rd in the standings, ahead of Pato O'Ward by quite a bit. They've been looking for a second guy for a hot minute. Is he him?
He might be.
Has been so far.
I warned you about this, didn't I? I have been singing from the rooftops for some time about the quality of Christian Lundgaard. And it's nice to see, as Captain Holt would say, vindication! Because Lundgaard has been fantastic so far this season. He has been in the top 10 in all three races, back-to-back podiums. Look, I'm a little bit concerned about the time differences because Lundgaard really was on the alternate strategy here at Long Beach, but he was the best of the dudes on the alternate strategy in Long Beach, and he made it work because, look, this race was arse gravy for tyres. The soft was good for 3 laps around Long Beach, which is a joke.
The China 2013 soft tire.
Go racing, Christian, instead of go racing Seb, because the soft was cheeks around here. Like, what was the point of the soft compound tire? Just to be there.
There's been a consistent thing this year with the Greenwald soft tire that it just melts. It's not fast enough to justify itself, and it dies after, opening round. It was dying after a couple of corners, man.
It's become a qualifying tire. What it is, it's like
barely a qualifying tire.
It's like the mid 2000s of like the MotoGP days when with 20 minutes to go in a qualifier, Kawasaki would slap some qualifiers on it and Randy Depunier would top a timing sheet for a hot minute. That's what this is. It's a tire that lost 2 laps and then it dies disgracefully. And then it's like India. India in F1. Everybody in the pits on lap 2. Like, what's the point? Honestly. Like, I don't get Firestone sometimes. Their tyres are generally very good. I just don't get why you'd have a soft tyre option that lasts 3 laps. Why? What good? What for?
Generally, I would be one to sing the praises of Firestone because, generally speaking, their IndyCar tires have been above reproach pretty much for the past 2 decades.
Like, when was the last time that you had a Firestone safety concern like you had in the other major North American series with Goodyear?
Not very often, but it does feel like they've completely misjudged the heavier cars with the hybrid setup and the extra torque going through the rear tires with this year's soft compound tire. It just dies immediately.
Yeah.
And you go back to the drawing board with that one.
It just doesn't make any sense to me. And look, if there's one thing I learned from reading Marshall Pruitt's mailbag today on Racer.com, my God, the broadcasters were keen to mention tyre strategy at every given waking moment of that race when there was none.
The strategy was, when do you get rid of these awful green tires? And I'll tell you for free, that was still ultimately more tire strategy than was in IMSA. Where the tire strategy was just, you don't change tires.
Yeah, don't have any.
Keep them suckers on there.
Joseph
Newgarden was in the pits on lap 2. Lap 2.
That is how much these tires stunk. I mean, again, it's like every series at this point, we're now talking about the tires being terrible.
And it's not even all their fault. But Lundgaard, again, he's been good. And Barber's coming up. The Grand Prix is coming up. If there's one thing that I know about him moving to Arrow McLaren, that is going to be 95% of him solving any oval-related woes.
Get Lundgaard an Indy road course win. He has been banging on that door for 4 years now to win at the Indianapolis road course. He's been so close, like half a dozen times, to the point where he probably should have won it a couple of years ago, but Alex Rossi got to keep an illegal win. I still am mad about this. It's bollocks. He's been so good on that track for years. This is when he was driving for RLL, damn it. He's in a McLaren now. He might be favourite going into that race at the Indy road course in 3 weeks' time. It's going to be wild.
RLL, whose best operation right now is the BMW Hypercar program. Imagine saying that 2 years ago.
No kidding.
3 poles and 3 should show for it.
Look, this is what McLaren have needed in their IndyCar operation for some time. They need depth. They need proven quality in their entire roster. We know Pato O'Ward is great. He's been trying to convince us he's back to his 2021 ways for the last 4 years now. Palou don't need the help. And what's wild is Palou is 6th in the standings right now, and he's actually 20 points behind Lundgaard. Or nearly 20 points. He's actually 16 points behind Lundgaard in the standings, despite the fact that Palou was 2nd in thermal. Like Lundgaard is giving McLaren some hope that they might have 2 bullets in the chamber. I just want to see what Lundgaard does on an oval, because that's going to be the real kicker. If he can solve the oval problems, everybody needs to be on notice.
There is one team that I think can consistently run with Penske speed. It's Arrow McLaren, and I think Lundgaard is going to rise to that level at the 500. You heard it here first. The days of Lundgaard just barely squeaking by the last row shootout are done.
Also, a quick mention before we move on for a minute. Has anybody noticed that Felix Rosenqvist is 4th in the standings right now?
I did notice
he's
that.
been sneaky great this year.
King Felix, baby. What a boy.
Dude.
What a boy.
Where has this guy been for the last little while?
Meyer Shank has some race pace. We saw Felix running top 5 all day. Meyer Shank has found race pace. Yes. Finally.
This is not a drill.
Yeah, honestly, if it wasn't for Lundgaard's last-minute pass towards the end of that race, that would have been Meyer Shank's first podium in a championship round since Jack Harvey did it in the Indy Road Course a few years ago. Rosenqvist is driving his nuts off right now for Meyer Shank.
Close.
They're getting there. They're really getting there now. And yeah, that is no joke. Honda are firing with that team right now. And
Rosenqvist want to get that Rosenqvist gets that podium at the Grand Prix circuit.
Wouldn't surprise me. He's more than capable.
Man. So Ratings Tuesday happened. No surprise. The Masters won.
13 million for Rory McIlroy finally breaking his curse. Jesus Christ.
Welcome to our golf podcast.
Yeah. By the way,
there is one thing. I will not allow this place to become it is a fucking golf podcast.
Never. I draw the line at golf. But what I will say is, most watched day of Sky Sports broadcasting ever. In over 30 years of Sky Sports in the UK. Apparently, the combination of Premier League football, the Bahrain Grand Prix that happened at the same time, and Rory McIlroy winning the Masters, I think it was about midnight UK time, combined for over 7 million people in the country watching Sky Sports. Crazy. Absolutely nuts.
But we're bearing the lead here is that it was a tough day for motorsport and it was a tough day for IndyCar. The good news is they got almost double the ratings they did with Long Beach back when that race was on basic cable last year. The better news is that they got an outstanding record in-person turnout of 200,000 people, which is not nothing.
That's
but
crazy.
The thing that people are fixated on is the fact that they still drew less than 600,000 estimated viewers via the Nielsen ratings.
Yeah, because the money comes from the TV ratings, and the TV ratings took yet another hit round on round.
That's a beating. There's no getting around it. That ain't good.
There is an element of the date that you have is the date that you have, and that's the date the city of Long Beach had available for the Grand Prix. It's always an April race. Sometimes that just happens, but they've got to balance out this schedule where we have, I don't mind a 3-week break later on the season, but ideally you don't want to have race, break, long break, race, long break, and then go straight into nothing but nonstop summer racing until end of August.
As King pointed out on our Discord server, NASCAR, for example, will be better off running its season from February through August. For the simple sake of avoiding football season.
Yeah, because we know they want to avoid football season. And by the way, do you know how crazy it is that a lot of like the usual IndyCar critics are just like, don't run against the Masters, but I know they will tell you in 4 to 5 months' time, why isn't IndyCar running against the National fucking Football League?
Yeah. That's why the season finishes August 31st this year. They are not running against they're not stupid enough to run against the NFL this year. They've actually rectified that problem.
And I like I said, I don't mind it if the season were to stretch out a little bit longer to September or October, But don't be surprised when more of America would rather watch the Colts Jags annual Week 5 slop fest for the AFC South wooden spoon.
Yeah, you ain't wrong. But look, I mean, I don't claim to be no TV expert, and look, part of this is because last year's race on NBC getting 300,000 viewers was a tire fire.
Yeah.
That was horrendous.
It's for Long Beach. That's a crown jewel event.
This is the second biggest race on the IndyCar calendar. Long Beach is steeped in tradition and heritage in North American motorsport. We had Alan Unser Jr. on the broadcast as part of the Fox layout. They rolled out the big hitters for this one. Mario was in attendance. This is a big deal race. This is the second biggest race on the calendar, in my opinion, behind the 500. 550,000 viewers says to me, you had the hardcores and no one else. Like, it's... Marshall Pruitt described it as a reality check. He was very open and honest, saying, look, we've not had a great IndyCar race so far this season. We've had 3 pretty mediocre races so far. I agree with the sentiment that they've been like 3 5 out of 10s, in my opinion. This is the reality check that this is not going to be an overnight fix for IndyCar in North America. Yeah. They have to accept that this is going to be the standard for a while. The Fox bump is gone. Like, don't get me wrong, getting 1.4 million on the opening round was fantastic, but those viewers have not stuck around. Yeah,
it makes the drop all the more painful.
Because it says to me that these new viewers you got for the debut on Fox did not stick around. And that's alarming. Like, that's the problem. You need consistent, maintained effort to help promote this sport to a new audience. And that's not going to happen overnight. 2, the TV ads have not worked, which is a real shame because they put a lot of effort into those and they've not quite worked out in the long run. And 3, IndyCar needs to look in the mirror and realize we need all the help we can get right now and be a bit more humble about itself, because this is a series that for years we're punching up at Formula One at every given opportunity, saying we're better than you. And Formula One is actually doing great in the US ratings-wise now.
And Formula One actually does take a long four-week break during the middle of their season, and unlike what some people would suggest, that doesn't hurt them at all.
Nope. Because it's F1. The people that want to watch F1 will watch F1 when it's on, regardless.
But don't worry, Dre. Taking up the mantle that Formula One failed on when IndyCar goes to V10 engines, this is going to fix everything. Never mind the fact that the sport's most spectacular era was with V8 engines that were only just a little bit bigger than the ones we have now.
Can I just say as well, and again, another mailbag comment that's been pointed out multiple times, was the hybrid spoken about in any of these IndyCar races so far this season?
No, because it's become it's a system that's there so we can say that they're hybrids because it ain't doing a whole lot else other than blowing up.
According to Pruitt's mailbag, and again, I've used them a lot in this, and because there's a lot of genuinely good insights, a shout out to Marshall Pruitt on this one. Apparently, Fox told them they didn't want to overwhelm new viewers with all the technical jargon straight away, which is why they've not mentioned the hybrid very much.
Fair.
Which, okay, understandable, but we're now at round 3.
Except for the moment where Townsend Bell is on the feed lying about how reliable they've been as we watch one fail.
I wanted this to work, and it hasn't, man.
It's brutal. And look, like I said, this is a reality check. A lot of people, I think, was drinking the jungle juice, hoping that the Fox move would just be the shot in the arm, the rocket fuel that this series needs to take it to the next level. This is not what it's going to be. This is where the real work begins. We know the 500 in May is going to be a guaranteed 5 million viewers. We know that. That's not the issue. It's getting people to care about the regular season. It's getting people to tune in, week out, and keep coming back. Because, again, we know IndyCar's racing is great. If you're one of the 500,000 hardcores that watch every single race on TV, you don't need convincing that the product is good. You need to convince Formula One, NASCAR, and everybody else in North American motorsport that you're worth actually paying attention to for the first time in 20 years.
And NASCAR is not going to move away from their asinine policy of every race has to start at 3:30, even on the East Coast.
And this is the problem because, like, Fox are literally cannibalizing their own product by competing against NASCAR week in, week out. You're making viewers choose.
The 3:30 start is what NASCAR wants, and this made it even tougher because this is a West Coast race. Unless you move it to 9:30 in the morning local time or push a sunset finish, it's not really going to work.
Nope.
There's a lot of it can't be helped, but there are some things that they can, and I'm struggling to find like what's the right solution, but I almost feel like a lot of people don't really know what it is either.
If it was obvious, it would have already been done, because it's all the hard work that we've been talking about for years on this show that IndyCar needs to do to get viewers to stick around and get retained. And we're right back to the same old discussion of, well, how does IndyCar retain people beyond the hardcores outside the 500? We don't know.
It's frustrating, as RJ's put in our chat himself, and he's not wrong. Take a time machine and beg Tony George not to split the sport.
That's the solution.
Right. We don't have a time machine, and Cam's got to go eat steak dinner at some point.
Eventually.
Exactly. I mean, we're almost done here anyway, so we'll probably get away with this now. But I was going to say, like, I still I'm not the most educated person on the split. I've watched Brock Beard talk about it on YouTube, but I do know for a fact that it has seemingly done permanent damage to the North American motorsport.
Seemingly from it. Between the Japanese bubble popping in the early 90s and KOing IMSA pretty much overnight with some help from Dan Gurney's All-American Racers, and Tony George splitting the sport for a bevy of reasons, and really you can't pin one of them down, but they all contributed. All-American motorsport outside of NASCAR and the NHRA pretty much died on its ass in the mid-90s. And they still have not recovered, and they're not going to recover. That ship has sailed. It's not going to be an overnight thing. It hasn't happened over the past 30 fucking years.
And it feels like IndyCar would need 20 times the marketing budget it currently does, like what F1's throwing at its product, to have any chance of competing against those juggernauts like itself and NASCAR.
NASCAR has been taking an M134 minigun to its own feet for the past 15 years. Desperately trying to cut itself down from dominating the American sports scene, and they just can't do it.
They just can't do it because we love this slop too much. We could be on this for a while, but Barber's up next. Mm-hmm. It's a race that's going to be on the knife edge of like, because Barber is a narrow track where it is traditionally tough to overtake, and yet it can produce good racing.
It can be done. It can be done. It's right.
I remember Sebastian Bourdais passing people in a Lotus in 2012.
I remember
maybe the greatest race of his career.
I remember Joseph's first win there and the Grand Rahal hot streaks.
Alex Palou's first win, Paddle Award winning on his contract extension a couple of years ago. Barber has this knack of producing great races. It
better
really,
than you think.
It's like Hungary, where on paper it's quite hard to pass and quite technical, but it has also just a knack of funky shit happening that makes it one of the better rounds we go to. I'm genuinely really looking forward to Barber. I always do every year. It's a great track. It produces many highlight reel moments. It's a great all-round test of an IndyCar driver. Please don't suck. IndyCar needs a good race, and it's not had one so far this year. Formula One's actually had a pretty good season so far. It's had 2 very solid rounds in Bahrain and Australia. MotoGP has kind of also been a bit mid this year, but the Marc Marquez excitement juice has got people going again, and that's masked a lot of the cracks.
We need a return to the "Are you fucking kidding me?" out of 10. We don't know what series is going to produce it, but it needs to happen soon.
We came damn close in Formula 2 of all places last week. Do you know how fucked up that is?
Formula 2 has its problems, but when it's good, it's good. And Formula E, well, it sure did happen.
We don't talk about Homestead.
I found out Pascal Wehrlein won like a day and a half later. That's how tuned out I am.
Via a reverse Valencia season 6, where multiple teams got dinged for not taking their final attack mode. Because of a late safety car.
And y'all wonder, if any of you are wondering why that is no longer covered on this network, there's your answer.
The highlight of that weekend was Gunther Steiner being unable to wave a checkered flag. Because he's an influencer now. That's the world we live in Formula E. We're paying Gunther Steiner to come down and wave a fucking flag. Get me out of here. Right, as mentioned, IndyCar is back in 2 weeks' time on May the 4th for the Grand Prix of Alabama at Barber. Like I said, always a fun round. Formula One is back this weekend for the... Oh, God, it's fucking Saudi Arabia. God damn it.
Sure is.
Oh yeah, everybody's favorite. Yay, wonderful. We'll get Saudi Arabia out of the way next week. Enjoy the festivities until then. And have a happy Easter, everybody.
Yep.
Enjoy the bank holidays.
WrestleMania season for those of you who are watching or pirating it.
Indeed, stuff your faces with chocolate, watch some pro wrestling, and then we'll come back and listen to us next week when we talk about Oscar Piastri's third win of the year. Until then, I've been Trey Harrison, they've been Cam Buckley, who's about to enjoy a glorious steak dinner, and he's been RJ O'Connell. Thank you very much for listening. See you guys next time. Sayonara.
Don't eat the gas station sushi, y'all.
So what sides should I get?
Mac and cheese.
Macaroni, cheese, and French fries. This isn't even
Hard to argue with that.